Bennett Maxwell, welcome to the Busy Working Show. How are you doing today?
Doing really good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Couldn't be better. Thanks so much for joining us. You've got a really fun and unique story and perspective. But rather than me tell us what you do professionally and how you came to be there.
I make cookies professionally, kind of. No, I'm not actually the cookie guy myself, but that's yeah. I am the owner of Dirty Dough Cookies, which is a franchise. We're pretty new. I mean, the first store did open a few years ago, but we started franchising 18 months ago. We have, I think, 21 stores opening or opened, with another 350 plus sold that we're opening up. I mean, weekly we're opening up 2 or 3 stores a week right now.
Wow, that is amazing. So you have tons of free time.
Yeah, exactly. That, and then you throw in the wife and 3 kids under 6, and yeah, all the free time you can dream about.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm sure that that free time is used quite well. So, how did you come to be in the business of dirty dough?
I had a solar company out in San Diego, and there's a lot of it's a pretty new space as far as the cookies go, like the large gourmet multi-flavored cookie space. It's been
Hmm.
around. I mean, Mrs. Fields, Great American Cookie Company, they've been around for 46 years, but then there's these newer companies that are, giant cookies, multi-flavored, serve fresh to your door. And one in particular that's really been taken off is Crumble. So, anyways, I was in San Diego running my
Mm.
solar company. I saw Crumble open one down there. And I'm like, man, we need a franchise Dirty Dough. Because it was somebody else's company. I was just a passive investor. And rather than franchising it to me, he decided to sell it. So I bought it in
Oh,
January of 21. So just about a year, just under a year and a half ago. Um, and the reason why I purchased it was I just saw that there's a big market opportunity in, this fast growing cookie franchise space. But in
hmm.
my opinion, nobody was doing it really efficiently. Everybody was kind of, hey, here's the recipe, go pay for everything, go open up your spot, go hire teenagers, go, mix small batches of cookies, 60, 70 cookies at a time,
Hmm.
portion them by hand, weigh them by hand. So I thought, what if I can take all of that guesswork out from the franchisee? We do that at a corporate level, and then we ship them pre-portioned cookie pucks. And then all you have to do in the franchise now is just pop them in the oven. So half the employees, half the square footage, much less than half the waste, just a lot more efficient, which then opens the door to more entrepreneurs to get into franchising because it's such a simple concept. So that was kind of the vision I saw. And that first year I spent, building that, getting production warehouses
Hmm.
and expensive machines, and then trucks, freezer trucks, all of that. And yeah, we franchised 18 months ago, and it's been going really well. We're one of the fastest growing franchises in history due to the simplicity of the model, along with a really good team backing it.
Oh, that's awesome. So, how would you say this first 18 months of franchising has it gone as you expected? Has it exceeded your expectation? What have you found in that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely exceeded expectation when we franchised. Well, before we franchised, somebody brought up this email. It was actually in court because we're in a lawsuit right now with Crumble, and they're claiming that there's no way we could be growing this fast unless we copied them. Which, anyways,
Mm.
and they brought up an email from about 2 years ago from me sending it to a potential advisor, and I said I want to open up 20 to 30 of these in the next 5 years.
Hmm.
And here we are, 2 years later. I think it's been about 2 years, 18 months since we actually franchised. We've already hit over 20 stores. I think we'll be at 30 by the end of June. So it's
Oh, that's
gone a
amazing.
lot quicker than what we thought. A lot of it was because of the lawsuit, it gave us national exposure. So, there's
Sure.
there's
There you
always
go.
good in there.
Yeah, well, I will look forward to a franchise opening in Augusta because there is a Crumble,
Yeah.
so we can compare and contrast quite well locally. So as you've gone through this, so you said you were in solar, now you're in revolutionizing the cookie world. Along the way, what have you aspired to in building this business, and what kind of legacy do you see this leaving for you, your employees, and you mentioned your 3 kids as well?
Yeah, let me talk first about the legacy that I want to leave for the franchisees. I hired a CEO the month we franchised. Her name's Jill Summer Hayes. She started a company called Maui Wowie Smoothies and Coffee in 1983. So it's 40 years later, and she still has franchisees that have been with her that whole time. Now, nobody's really
Wow.
running a franchise for 40 years, right? What they're doing
Yeah.
is they're passing it on to kids. And that to
Hmm.
me is super empowering, right? Can I provide a simple model with a low, entry point, but also a low break even? So you can last 4 decades and it can create generational wealth. So that's the legacy, I guess, I'm trying to create and give to our current and potential franchisees. Um, for, I guess, employees, myself, and my kids, everything that we do with Dirty Dough has a purpose behind it. I mean, the whole company, the mission statement of Dirty Dough and my personal mission statement is to find joy and fulfillment despite life's dirtiness in ourselves and others. So how do we have more
Mm.
joy? And fulfillment is typically contributing to something greater than ourselves. And the despite life's dirtiness speaks to don't wait for life to be perfect in order to find that joy and fulfillment. Because oftentimes, we just go after the next shiny object and we say, for me, it was once I sell my solar company, then I will
Hmm.
spend more time with my family. Then I'll go on more trips. Then I'll be happier. Right. And then when
Yeah.
that happened, I realized, I have to snap out of this and I have to find it in the journey. So that's what Dirty Dough's based off of and built off of. If you go into any of our stores, it has a mental health messaging. So before you walk into a store,
Oh.
you'll see we care about your feelings, right? A kind of cute play on words, but it
Hmm.
is everything that we do with the cookies. Every single one of them is a stuffed cookie, a 2-layer cookie, or 3-layer cookie. And the messaging
Nice.
there is just like life, these cookies are sometimes dirty and messy, but they're meant to be enjoyed. And what matters is on the inside. So what a 3-layer cookie is, you look at it, it looks like a peanut butter cookie. You break it open, there's chocolate
Hmm.
dough, and in the very center, there's hot fudge. So that's the messaging.
Mm.
It's what's on the inside counts. Every single one of our packaging has a different mental health message, kind of as a reminder that, hey, life doesn't need to be perfect for you to find the sweetness inside, right? So that's
That's
kind of
awesome.
one of the pillars that we've built Dirty Dough off of in achieving the mission statement to find more joy and fulfillment is that mental health piece. And the second is entrepreneurship. How do we
Mm.
lower the barrier of entrepreneurship to empower more people through owning their own business?
Yeah. So it's very fascinating, and like you said, the design of your cookies lends itself to this articulation of mental health awareness. So how does that come to bear? How do you bring that to bear outside the walls of your franchisee, the locations, and everything?
Yeah. We created Life is Sweet Foundation. So one is the messaging, right? And it's like the messaging is awesome. And I am really proud of the messaging that we're giving off.
Hmm.
But I did want to put my money where my mouth is to speak, right? So every franchise we open, we will fund a local mental health wellness center, which is
Mm.
converting an old classroom in a K through 12 school to a place that kids can pop in 10, 15 minutes. You come
Hmm.
in, you identify your emotion. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling happy, whatever it is. I'm feeling sad on a scale from 1 to 10. I'm at a 7. And then you grab your
Yeah.
timer, 10, 15 minutes, and you go choose a different activity, whether it's a gratitude card, whether it's
Hmm.
guided meditation or breath work exercises. And then as you leave, then you're identifying your emotion again and seeing which activities help you regulate which emotions. So every franchise, and the goal is 1,000 franchises open and 1,000 wellness centers open within the next 5 years.
Oh, that's amazing. That is really fantastic. Now, what was the inspiration behind um, starting that? I mean, that's something that's as unique as your cookies, right?
Yeah. So the first, I spoke a little bit, that was my midlife crisis 2 years ago when I was 28, when I sold the solar company. And I realized that I told myself I sacrificed relationships, family, health. I mean, I got up to 310 pounds. It was whatever it took to work, because work equaled more money and more money equals
Mm.
more vacation time, which then
Yeah,
equals more time with my family. And then, man, I'm happier, right? So I sell the solar
yeah.
company. I have the residual income. I have some rental properties. I have the cash, and I was still working those nights and weekends. So I started looking
Mm.
internally of like, who am I? What is a legacy that I want to leave behind? And I
Yeah,
landed on that mission statement, the joy and fulfillment. So that's one part. The second part is just having kids and knowing that the mental health crisis is real.
Hmm.
3 years ago, I didn't even know what that meant. Like I didn't know what anxiety, depression, like I just didn't grow up in that. And I was
Hmm.
fortunate to not battle with that myself. So, but I know the statistics of having two daughters and a son, especially the daughters, they're most likely going to deal with mental health. So how can I get in front of that and understand it? So a lot of it was initially because of that, like, crap, I don't know what to do as a dad. It
Yeah.
was 2019. That was when I listened to the podcast that really got me onto the mental health grind. And then when I sold my solar company in 2021, then I kind of
Hmm.
went through myself like, crap, like who am I? What am I about? So both of those things kind of combined. And I thought, I'm never going to do a business again unless it has a bigger purpose, a bigger impact.
Yeah, and I think now is very critical for that type of outreach, particularly through COVID. I don't think that we've seen the impact that that year had on our kids fully yet. And every part of the country had, different ebbs and flows of how they came back into contact with their peers. But we talked about this. I don't know if any of your kids fit this, but my youngest was born in December of 19. So
Okay.
right when she would start to socialize with, even as a baby, with cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents, everything got shut down. So she didn't see anybody except our immediate family for almost her first year of life.
Yeah.
And so the 2 following years, just now, so she's 3.5, she's starting to come out of her shell. And I mean, she's making up for it, so that's great. But I mean, I know that I've got a niece who was a senior, so didn't have a senior year, and that really made an impact of going into college, not really having that that step from and so I love that focus that you're putting on that. I think now more than ever it's needed.
Yeah. It's just such a different world. And I know that life is always going to, hit us with challenges. So it's not about avoiding the challenges or avoiding, but it's about when the challenges come, what science-based tools are out there that you can use, free science-based tools, right? That you can use on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis to regulate those emotions and push through those hard times.
Yeah, absolutely. So along the way, you had to have met other people who have that you feel that have paved the way and you want to emulate. What kind of individuals have you met, and what about them are you looking to emulate as you build this company as rapidly with the legacy that you articulated earlier?
Yeah, one of the first people that had a really big impact was the owner of another franchise called Everbowl. They
Mm-hmm.
have it's an acai bowl concept, and they're growing really rapidly. And he helped me develop the concept of centralizing the production. I was halfway there, and he's like, dude, you have to go all the way. So that was again looking at what he'd created in the franchise. And then I would say probably the biggest person though is Jill, our CEO, and seeing that
Mm-hmm.
her company 40 years later. Now, after she exited that, was CEO for another company, 1 to 90 locations in just a few years. So she's done it
Mm-hmm.
twice. And then we brought on some really good advisors to help us along the way. One of our more recent advisors that we brought on was a former CEO of Jimmy John's. Now he
Oh,
owns
nice.
a fund that owns 7 or 8 franchisor food brands. Another guy that is an investor and we're doing a partnership to do Dirty Dough International with. He was the VP at Domino's. He opened up the Europe market,
Oh,
the
very
Middle East
nice.
market, and the Africa market. So really getting
Wow.
people on board that have kind of been there, done that with
Mm-hmm.
similar concepts, and leveraging what they the mistakes that they've made and the uh, learnings that they've came through after those mistakes.
Yeah. So as you have brought on these advisors, which in and of itself is a process of meeting and gaining that rapport and that trust, is what has been their feedback, particularly from the mental health and the more community engagement philanthropic aspect.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are more into it than others, but I mean, everybody's into it, right? Everybody at our core is humans, and my belief is that we all want to make a difference. We all want to give back. We all want to make the world a better place. It's just how do we do it, right?
Mhm.
So what we've created is a very simple way to get involved. Hey, help us grow the businesses. And by default, you're spreading an amazing message. By default, you're educating millions of kids on mental health. And then that same attraction goes to franchisees as well as customers. Because again, if you buy a cookie from one of our stores, those proceeds, we will fund a wellness center in your area. And it's not just somewhere across the country or across the world, it's that local community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So, one of the cliche, cheesy questions like, hey, what would you tell your graduating self? No. If you wrote yourself a letter today and you put it in a safe and you opened it in 20 years, what would you write to yourself?
Oh, in the future.
Yes.
What would I write to myself? Man, I don't know anything today. Hopefully I know more in the future. Um, my big goal, I guess, right now that is bringing me a lot of joy and fulfillment is having a purpose-based business. So reminding myself, I guess, in 20 years, whatever you're doing, make sure that you're making a positive impact and you're allowing other people to also contribute to that positive impact.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, unfortunately, this is a virtual conversation. Otherwise, I would have demanded that you brought something to sample for us. But for those who are looking for this type of franchise, this type of model, how do they do it?
Um, just applying on our website, there's a lot of information there, dirtydough.com. And there's some videos, some franchisee testimonials, things like that. And then you can, connect directly with the salesperson. But again, the model, what I say, what it takes to be an entrepreneur, you need a game plan, you need time, money, and expertise. So I believe I have the most simplistic food franchise game plan out there with the model that we're doing. Again, I ship you a cookie puck, you just put it in the oven. The time required to run one of these stores is much less than anybody else because you have so few employees. That's typically the number one time consumption. The money required, now you don't need mixers, you don't need this big space for all your raw ingredients. So the build out costs are a lot less. We're less than half of the cost of like a crumble. And the expertise, I mean, cookies, it's cookies, but there is still some baking science in it, right? Did you mix, if you mix it at the wrong mixing speed, or you mix it a little bit too long or not long enough, or if the butter is not properly thawed, or if you scoop the flour and there's air bubbles, but you also don't want to pack the flour, right? We've taken out the expertise required in the baker front completely out of the picture. You just need to put it in the oven. So really trying to take those four entry points of entrepreneurship and say, how do we lower those as low as possible to give more people the opportunity to invest and own a business?
That's awesome. I mean, you just made me think. In high school, I remember I was making cookies and I went to put them on the tray. And I was like, man, these things are watery. I just couldn't figure it out. And then I just kind of scrapped the idea. And then I walked back in the kitchen later and there's a big old bowl of flour. I was like, huh, I bet that probably had something to do with it. So,
You didn't put the bowl of flour in there? Is that what you're saying?
no, I just said everything else. Now, of course, I'm a teenager, so what do I know? But
Yeah, I
that
like
was
it.
my first entry
Yeah.
into making cookies. So thank God my kids are old enough now to take care of that for me. But
Yes, awesome.
yeah, those are kind of important steps that you should follow to actually have a cookie, the outcome.
Yes.
Well, this is great, man. Bennett, I really appreciate you taking the time today. I'm excited to follow your progress over the next, let's see, you've made so much in 18 months. The next 18 months is going to be awesome to watch. So thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing how busy you keep working.
Thank you. I appreciate it.